Well, it's so good to see everybody. If I haven't met you guys yet, my name is Johnny Crumpler. I'm on the collegiate side normally, and I've been asked this morning to give a snapshot a little bit on following God amidst busy seasons. So I have the joy of being married to Jenny Crumpler, who's in the back. She's one of the deacons here with NLCF, and I get the privilege of serving alongside her on the collegiate side here. And in addition to those, I also work full-time in Radford for a company called Cole Morgan as a product manager, so it takes up a pretty significant portion of my Monday to Fridays, you could say. But it's a joy being there, and I'm glad for that work. And I think that we can safely say, in this room, that throughout our lives, whether it's families, jobs, whatever it has, taking care of a loved one, we all have a lot of things in our lives that can take our time, and they can be a distraction that can keep us from the Lord. They can keep us from being focused on Him, focused on creation instead of being focused on the Creator Himself. And there's a few practices that I've found throughout the busyness in life that have helped me come back and being centered around God and being excited to be part of His kingdom work here in the New River Valley. The first of which of those is prayer. And so I think this doesn't necessarily have to look like hours of a day. Sometimes I feel like that's the picture we have in our head, is we have to be before Him on our knees for hours a day. But I think it can look like the commute to and from work. If you're driving to work, 25 minutes in the car. It could look like stepping aside from work throughout the day for 5 minutes and spending some time in prayer. It can look like, if we're doing a 24 hours of prayer event, 30 minutes, maybe before bed at night, watching one less Netflix episode and spending a little time in prayer. That's really speaking to myself there, actually. It can look like serving, too. I think, in college, I really enjoyed the week-long mission trips, but obviously with the full-time job, I don't really have that time as much. But it can look like spending a time on a weekend morning serving with the International Free Sale. It could look like serving your neighbor. Maybe you're making some dinner that night. You bring them over some food. You bring them a household item or a clothing item. These small acts of service for the ways to have our heads up for these missional spaces in our community around us here. It can look like time spent with these people. So it can look like showing up on a Sunday service. It can look like showing up at a small group. I think celebrate those things. Those are wins amidst the busyness of life. If you have time around those times, it could look like grabbing coffee with somebody circling around a community before coming to Sunday service, or it could look like grabbing a meal with folks before you go to your small group. Things like that, I think, are ways that you can plug back in. And lastly, I think about Sabbath. This is definitely a harder one amidst the full-time work, carving out a full 24 hours of a 7-day week. A lot of people I talk to at work, they're like, yeah, there's no chance I can do that. But I've really put an emphasis on this over the summer and coming into the fall, just to carve out 24 hours over the weekend to spend time with Him, spend time refreshing myself through Scripture, through spending time in silence, through spending time in something that I just really enjoy doing, going out, going a walk, playing some pickleball with Jenny, things like that. And I've found through that practice that it's left me less overwhelmed as I think about the work week ahead, and with a greater energy and excitement for small group, the things that we're doing with NLCF outside of my work time. And I'm really praising God for that in this season. I'm really thankful for that. Because I know that whether I'm giving Him 5 minutes in my workday or 25 minutes in my commute to and from work, or the 24 hours of Sabbath, any time in between that or more than that or less than that, He cherishes. He just wants to spend time with us. And He's not asking us necessarily to give Him numerous hours of every single day of our lives, but He's asking us to surrender our hearts to Him. And so that surrender can be these small daily acts that are sometimes short, sometimes long, of prayer, scripture reading, Sabbath, time in community, to align ourselves more fully to what He's doing in us and around us in our communities, our workplaces, our homes, our friendships, numerous things. So a couple of things I've tried to work in amidst the busyness of life. So I'm Johnny, and that's my snapshot. Thank you.